We have a great program for you today. Starting us off this morning, one of our leaders in our district, one of my favorite people, Vice President of the Westside Board of Education, Mr. Doug Krenzer.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Education, welcome and thank you for being here. Our Board President, Chris Carnes, wishes very much that she could be with us. Today, we begin a year unlike any in our history. We know that the challenges we face seem enormous. There's fear and anxiety, uncertainty, and stress. But for just a few minutes, I want to give you a case for optimism. The writer Gore Vidal said, "We never know when we are happy, only when we were." Often it takes time and perspective to realize the joyous times in our lives. Even in this most difficult year, I believe that you can and you will experience happiness. Maybe it is a special connection you develop with a student. Maybe it's a special friendship you develop with a fellow staff member. It could be an achievement of a student that you coach, or it could be an inner sense of professional development and pride in your career that only you know. But whatever the source of that happiness, and whenever it may arrive for you, I'm asking you to share and spread that feeling of happiness, because your students and your colleagues will sense it. Your students this year may not remember every lesson you gave them or every skill that you taught them. But this is going to be a school year that they will never forget. And how you make them feel during this time will stay with them forever. Will they sense our frustration and fear, or will they see positivity and hope? Because of an experience I had, I think I know the answer. A little over a year ago, life was rolling along well. A national search brought Dr. Lucas to Westside. My oldest, a Westside graduate, of course, had just graduated from college. Something did not feel quite right inside, but I figured I wasn't getting any younger, just growing older. But that is not what it was at all. When your doctor leaves your room and her parting words are, "I'm sorry," you know it's not so good. You know it's not a good day. But in the difficult months that followed, something amazing happened. Our family was helped, fed, cared for, and loved by the Westside community of schools, the Westside family. This caring spirit of we, the we in Westside, can sustain us through these tough times. I know it because I have seen it in action. The we in Westside is going to keep us focused on the diversity and inclusion efforts that are so critical to our success. Welcoming, equity, support, inclusion, dignity, everyone. Westside. We will not let those efforts be delayed or distracted by anything. They're much too important. The we in Westside is going to help our students achieve in the classroom, on the stage, on the field, on the court, on the air, everywhere they go, and in everything they do. Their growth cannot wait a year. Their success cannot be put on the shelf until more normal times. They don't have time to waste, and neither do we. And when we get through this difficult time, and we will look back and realize how much we pulled together, how much we stayed strong, how much we, Westside, accomplished together. Our hallmarks, community, innovation, and excellence, were made for this moment. Now let us go and meet the moment. Whether you are a veteran or new to Westside, you have our deepest appreciation and our full support. To each and every one of you, thank you for all that you will do this year for our students. Now together, let's have a great school year.
It is a pleasure to work for this guy every day in Westside, and I hope each of you get the chance at some point to meet him personally and to hear his story and just feel his energy. Dr. Mike Lucas, our superintendent.
Welcome back. It's great to see everybody, even if it's in a different format. Friday, March 13th, seems like 10 years ago. That was the day we attended a governor's press conference down in Lincoln and then announced that we were going to extended campus learning. Friday, March 13th was actually just 146 days ago. In those 146 days, stress, fear, anger, loneliness, anxiety, and disbelief have set in for many. It's an amazingly difficult time to be a human being, let alone an educator, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a friend, or again, just a person. It's a tough time. We've seen good, bad, and ugly in the last 146 days, but we're here. We've made it back to this point. We're back together in a much different format, much stranger time, but we are here, and that's a starting point. As we look to the next 146 days, that'll take us to December 30th. We must do all we can to forge ahead together. We have to continue to be prepared for multiple scenarios. Here's what I know about difficult times and adversity. They make teams, organizations, schools do one of two things: crumble and fail as individuals and small isolated groups, or difficult times and adversity make teams forge ahead together, finding ways to be successful. Over the next 146 days and beyond, it'll be critical how we answer the following questions. Can we stay together? Can we work together better than ever before? Can we all help move Westside forward during the most challenging time in our school district's history? At ABC, we've worked hard with the board support to provide you with lots of building, grade level, and department time over the next 8 work days. We've got a lot of challenges that we must face. The yellow mode that we're in is our plan for the first 14 days of school. And actually it's 12 because of some Wednesdays, but we're hoping to adjust and improve each of those 14 days as we're just trying to buy time, get to Labor Day weekend. What adjustments can we make? What improvements, what changes can we make? As we've said all summer, yellow is the most challenging model that we have. But it's the only model we felt like was on the table to be able to see our students in some fashion before Labor Day. Yellow is hard for our staff. Yellow's hard for our students and their families. But it's the only thing we can do right now. We understand that. Again, we're going to try it for 14 days. We're going to support our teachers, our classified staff, and students like crazy to try and pull this off. We know this is an extremely difficult challenge ahead for all of us. As the district level admin team, senior leadership, Enid Schoenweiss, Mark Weichel, and myself, I want to be real clear to everybody here. We believe in you. We've got your back. Many of the things we are doing for safety reasons are not what we believe in as educators. I don't think any of us attended any education courses where we were taught to have kids sitting in rows and assigned seats with plexiglass barriers. So those are things we're going to do not because they're the best educationally, but because they're the safest things we can do right now. And so Mark, Enid, and I want you to understand the best we can do right now is different. And we're going to settle on the best we can do right now. It's going to be different. Many of the instructional practices we will have to use in the coming weeks are simply the best we can do right now. And we really, coming off of what we've been through and our students, we really have a lot of non-academic things we need to focus on with our kids. And that's why yellow was so important to us, to be able to start developing some relationships with our students in the event that we would have to go to red at some point in the year. But as teachers, we want you to understand something. Do the best you can do right now. And you have our support. That's very, very important. We can still do amazing things with our students by doing the best we can do right now. In the past year, I've tried to talk a lot about We Are Westside. And I want to clarify a few things that I noticed in the last year. We Are Westside does not mean we are always going to agree. We Are Westside means that in the times when we don't agree, we're still committed to each other, to District 66, and that beautiful red W you see at midfield. No team, no school, no family, no organization works in 100% agreement of everyone at all times. I always use the example, I love my wife, my 4 children more than anybody in the world. That's my top 5. And I don't agree with everything they say and do, and they don't agree with everything I say and do. And that's certainly going to be the case at any of our schools or any organizational level. We Are Westside means that we support each other even when we don't agree. It's how we handle those times that shows the power of we that Mr. Krenzer talked about. Think about COVID-19. It's an all-time example of how We Are Westside will need to be leaned on, how We Are Westside will be tested. We Are Westside allows us to break down some of the many dividers that we have. ABC versus all the buildings, classified versus certified, elementary versus secondary, skin color, masks versus no masks, who's sending their children to school, who's keeping them at home. There's all these different things that try and divide us. We Are Westside is a reminder to focus on what we can stay together on, not what divides us. As a teammate of yours, I want you to feel accepted for however you feel right here, right now. There is no right or wrong way to feel. How you feel is how you feel, and you should feel good about that. There's no wrong feelings. We are trying to support everyone in this stadium with where they're at emotionally as we return to work. It's hard. Some of you are super excited to be here. Some of you are scared. We get it. We support all of you. This is a hard speech to deliver because I'm not trying to make you feel good or bad. How you feel is really mostly up to you. I guess if I had to sum up the purpose of my few minutes of speech here is that want you to feel supported and want you to feel validated for however you feel. I want to encourage everybody in the stadium to focus on controlling what you can't control. We talked about that a little bit last year. We have to control what we can control. COVID has taken so many things out of our control. And admit it, as professional educators, many of us, we're kind of control freaks. We're structured. We do this, then we do that. We love routine and structure. Many of us create to-do lists, and we put a couple things on the to-do list that we've already done just so we can check them off. Admit it. Our world has been turned upside down. We can't control much right now, and it stresses us out. But if we focus on what we can control, we can be better. We can all control our 3 P's: professionalism, poise, and the pride that we take in what we do and how we do it. We can control our attitude, what we say, how we say it, and we can focus on making the best out of a brutally tough situation. We can't control if it's going to rain and rain out the secondary. 2020, man, I tell you. We can't control whether the city of Omaha has a mask mandate, what our students do when they're not with us, what the Republicans and Democrats are fighting about in Washington, D.C., what neighboring districts are doing. We can spend our time and energy on what we can control, focus on us, our students, our team, on better days ahead. COVID can't take away our pride or our commitment to our students and community. We know that challenges and adversity can bring out the worst in people, but they can also bring out the best. What are you showing others? Your best or worst? What will you be remembered for during the crazy period of time known as COVID-19? What's your attitude like? What are your social media accounts like? What will your students and coworkers say and remember about you? We can be scared and anxious without being negative and detrimental to our team. We can be nervous without negatively impacting our students. Our students deserve our best, and that's what we've got to find a way to give them. There's too much talent and dedication on this staff to not be successful. COVID has slowed us down. COVID has changed us, but COVID hasn't and it will not beat us. We need to be calm, professional, and poised in front of our students at all times because they're going to react to what we say and do. We hope that today allows us to take a step forward, that August 18th through September 4th allows us to take a few more steps forward. None of us have ever been through this. None of us have come back to work during a global pandemic. We have to be willing and able to accept grace from others and give it to others. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being an important part of our school district. Together, we'll make this thing work. Let's get out of here and we'll send you a video about what everybody else is going to say. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen Anderson, math teacher at Westside High School. Up here with me, I have Paula Limbach, Westside Middle School, Stephanie Barker, Hillside Elementary, and Teresa Matthews, also Hillside Elementary. Then we have Jessica Lowe and Molly Maystrick from Westbrook Elementary. And also Forrest Selvey and Trevor Ray, who unfortunately are not here with us right now. Through the NSEA, we had the opportunity to take a year-long class called Challenging Racism, Conversations about Race and Belonging. Even before we completed the class, we knew it was too important not to share. A lot has been in the news and social media lately about police brutality, systemic racism, the Black Lives Matter movement, the removal of Confederate statues. I just want you to take a minute and think about where you are and how you feel about these things. I'm sure there's a lot of different feelings and thoughts out there. Just know that our students are also processing those feelings and thoughts. Even in the past, in my math classroom, race, ethnicity, and identity has come up. I knew these conversations were important, but I was uncomfortable. So unfortunately, I'd usually do one of two things. I'd either, one, ignore it if at all possible, or two, redirect and say, you know, that's not important right now, this is math class. I shied away from these conversations because I was uncomfortable. Maybe I didn't have all the background knowledge on a topic. Maybe I was afraid I'd offend somebody or that I'd make a parent mad. And as a middle-class white woman, some of these discussions, such as police brutality, were kind of academic to me. I've never even been pulled over before. But for our students, these things directly impact their life, their family, and their community. What message am I sending to them when I say, That's not important right now. At Westside, we have students from all race, ethnic, and class backgrounds. In comparison, our staff is disproportionately white. Our students notice this. As the Board of Education clearly acknowledged in their June resolution, the reason Westside is West Side is because of racist policies like redlining back in the 1930s through the 1960s. That's not personally our fault, but it is our responsibility because it made this community, and this is our community. For everyone in education, but particularly for white educators, it's our responsibility to lean into this work and to do our best to make our classrooms and buildings equitable and places where all of our students feel that they are valued and they belong. Students should not have to change the way they feel, the way they dress, the way they talk, to be accepted and loved here. All of us are here because we love kids. We know how important it is to have relationships. Being willing to have these conversations with students is a way to build that relationship and trust. But learning how to have these conversations with each other, our community, our students, it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's not easy. As Dr. Lucas has said, this is not one of those things where we can go to a PD day, check a box, and we're done with it. But all of us standing here today can tell you that the skills and knowledge we have learned have been invaluable towards making us more aware and comfortable about having these conversations. We don't know everything, and we have and will continue to make mistakes, but this work is too important to let perfect be the enemy of good. And sometimes it's as simple as listening to someone else's story or being willing to share your own. We invite you to join us during our Professional Development Day on September 21st for more. We'll be hosting sessions to share what we've learned and to help you build some of those skills. Expect an email in the future with more information. But of course, we're teachers, so we know the best way to learn is to do. So I have a little homework for you. I'd like you to think way back, as far as you can. When was the first time that you remember hearing about or experiencing that construct we call race? Maybe it was a question you asked your parents. Maybe it was something you heard your friends talking about. Or maybe somebody said something to you that made you feel a certain way. Think back, dig deep, find those memories, and bring them to our September PD Day, and that'll be the start of our conversation. But until then, if you have any questions, you want to know more, or you just want to talk, feel free to reach out to any of us. We're super excited to share what we know, to share our thoughts, our fears, and we're just really looking forward to doing this work. Thank you.
Good morning, Westside Committee. Welcoming equity, support, inclusion, dignity for everyone. The Westside Committee wants to provide a perspective to our students, staff, and community. This perspective will enable us to become stronger as one diverse and inclusive learning community, which will make everyone feel safe and valued. This will encompass a kindergartner who is understanding their world is much larger than the classroom, to a high school senior who is gaining the skills to step into the world as a unique individual. Perspective, noun, a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something, a point of view. We all have perspectives and experiences to learn and gain from each other. The challenge is how to execute this in an effective and compassionate way. Even more so, how to accomplish this during the state of our world in this global pandemic. This is where we come in. The Westside Committee is here to provide equity support and inclusion dignity for everyone. We have the following goals we are striving to achieve towards making our district as an inclusive learning community. To model to our students and staff what it means to listen, to understand, and to respect the perspectives from the individuals who represent historically marginalized communities. To empower our staff with the freedom to develop positive relationships with our students, families, and fellow staff members who represent historically marginalized communities. To seek accountability with our staff in the implementation of inclusivity in the classroom and in buildings at all learning levels. To provide a shared language for all students, staff, and families, how to understand and how to embrace inclusivity at all learning levels. To promote a positive reflection of Westside being a diverse entity among our students, staff, and community. Ericka Payton, Assistant Principal and Program Director at the West Campus, will go into further details on how we, as educators, could implement our goals towards inclusivity by providing a transparent view on how the Black Lives Matter movement has affected our students, staff, and community, and how building authentic relationship is the foundation in taking the steps towards inclusivity. On the behalf of our committee, I would like to focus on how we could begin the process in building positive, authentic relationships with our students, which is more important than ever as we all experience this pandemic together. We want to make sure that we are breaking down the barriers and making a connection to all of our students, especially our students from the historically marginalized communities. We want to embrace what it means to belong and have dignity as one learning community. Having a strong background in the theatrical arts, actors are taught the importance of being part of an ensemble. We will follow a 4-step process, which is connection, communication, confidence, and creativity. The 4 C's is what we call it. As educators, we could follow this process to begin developing positive relationships with our students and embrace the different perspectives that make our district unique and valued. We know that there are certified teachers, classified staff, assistants, building staff, early childhood staff, before and after school care staff that are making strong connections with our students. We see you. And the Westside Council wants to be the friendly reminder that our job as educators is not done. We have to be conscious in our efforts to build those relationships with our students who desperately needs connection at this odd time. Connection. As human beings, we naturally want to connect with another individual. The goal is to understand who your student is as an individual first, and then as a student second. One of the best ways to achieve this is what we call in theater education, the question of the day. The rules are simple. Think of a question. What's your favorite color? What is your favorite movie? How about what is something that you've done really weird? And always follow up with the why. That is important part because it gives students the opportunity to express themselves and have a platform to speak on about their experiences, their perspective, their point of view. Every student has to answer, and you as an educator has to answer as well. This will make you more human, and the student will start to see you as an individual. A connected relationship goes both ways. That's what we call a strong scene partner. In addition, have your students pay attention and listen for what we call connection points. Connection points are when an individual shares the same experience with another individual. For example, oh, you like Harry Potter? Oh, cool, I'm a total Hufflepuff. Let's talk about it. What house are you in? This will begin a dialogue, which is the beginning of building a relationship. And this could be sprinkled throughout the day and not just at one time in your class. Communication. This is where you set your expectations and instructions. By already establishing a connection with an individual, you could communicate to them effectively with your expectations and instructions. Again, we are all different and learn differently. By having an idea on who they are, you will be able to instruct and redirect accordingly. We do not want to treat every student the same because they are not all the same. However, we want to strive and treat every student fairly. Ms. Payton will go further into how to achieve that in her section. In addition, checking in with your student falls under communication. By simply checking in with them as individuals, you are being consistent in building that positive relationship, and they will begin to naturally trust you. Confidence. Once a student starts to trust you as an individual and as an educator, they will become more confident academically and socially in the classroom. Each student will now feel they are part of an ensemble or a team for you sports fans out there. They will feel they are able to contribute and feel needed. Students will have a great sense on who their classmates are and who their instructors are. A sense of belonging will be established, and students will have the confidence to contribute more and will naturally perform well. Creativity. This could be viewed as the outcome of a healthy and inclusive classroom environment. This is where we witness the different personalities emerge and how their unique perspectives have enriched not only yourself as an educator, but other students in the classroom. Because you have provided a safe and open learning environment. Everyone will have a sense of belonging and acknowledge how truly different we all are and how that is important to the development of oneself. When we think of creativity, we think of color. And we should always go towards that and embrace that. What makes Westside a unique entity is that we are a smaller school district and have the tools and resources to achieve the committee goals. But we need your help. Yes, we are not sure how the school year is going to look because of COVID. But if you enter the school year with the mindset of having emphasis in building those relationships with your students, we are off to the right start in becoming an inclusive learning community. Remember, you may be uncertain with our world right now, and that is okay. It's okay to feel that way. However, think from a kindergartner perspective who may feel upset when they are not able to socialize with their friends. How a high school senior may feel less equipped entering their senior year, and especially how a student of color may feel they do not belong because what is happening around us. They need us more than ever. Let's feel empowered to be real with what's happening in our world and be real with each other because we all seek a connection, especially a positive and inclusive connection. Thank you.
As an educator coming into the 2021 school year, we will be faced with some very challenging circumstances. We have the unique charge of protecting children's physical health against COVID. Parents and guardians are trusting us to care for their children's social and emotional well-being, all on top of the state and district telling us what we must teach them. This charge is not to be taken lightly. We have a heightened sense of accountability to be prepared to give students and families 100% commitment to these charges every single day. One of the major movements going on in the nation today is the Black Lives Matter movement. Although Black Lives Matter was founded as a response to the acquittal of George Zimmerman and the murder of Trayvon Martin in 2013, injustices across this country have been going on for hundreds of years. Most recently, we have seen the hashtag BLM all over shirts, hats, yard signs, social media posts, and etc. in response to police brutality. Please know and understand that our nation recently watched George Floyd cry out for his deceased mother in a Minnesota street as police officers kneeled on his neck for almost 9 minutes as he died. He was being arrested for allegedly using a counterfeit $20 bill. Please know and understand that blacks all over the nation are waiting for the police officers who murdered Breonna Taylor as she slept to be arrested and charged. Plainclothes officers rammed in her door with a no-knock search warrant. She was shot 8 times. No drugs were found in her apartment. These are just 2 recent examples of blacks feeling dehumanized at the hands of law enforcement. There was also Tamir Rice, Ahmaud Arbery, Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, Walter Scott, Janet Wilson, Philando Castile, and countless others whose lives were taken unjustly too soon. I recently read a meme on social media that said, "George Floyd isn't a wake-up call. The same alarm has been ringing since 1619. Y'all just keep hitting snooze." In case you are unsure, 1619 was the year a ship carrying 20 enslaved Africans arrived to the Virginia colony. It is time for us to no longer hit the snooze button. We cannot ignore this movement because students aren't coming in welcoming us with open arms because it's the right thing to do anymore. They need to trust us. They need to know that we truly care. They need us to show a strong level of empathy to the challenges they face every day. Empathy, not sympathy. Please know and understand that with liberty and justice for all, and all men are created equal, doesn't ring true for some of our students, especially our Black, Native American, and Hispanic students. One of the biggest things you can do to understand the Black Lives Matter movement is understand that Black Lives Mattering doesn't mean the others don't. The most common rebuttal to Black Lives Matter is all lives matter. And while we want that to be the case, some Black students, some Native American students, and some Hispanic students don't feel included in the word all. How can all lives matter if they don't feel that theirs don't? All lives matter to Black Lives Matter is actually more divisive than unifying. That's because it discounts and diminishes the focus on the violence and discrimination individuals of color face every day in this country. We have to show them that their life matters and that we care about them as not only a Westside student, but as a person of color in this community, in this country, and in this world. All students, particularly students of color, want to be treated fairly, especially by those who are supposed to protect them. Notice I said fairly and not equally. I am very intentional in teaching my students the difference. You have to build authentic relationships with your students because how can you truly treat someone fairly when you don't even know what they need? Johnny probably doesn't need the same thing as Mary, so treating them equally may actually hurt more than it helps. Students will come to me and say, "Well, you did this for such and such," and I'll say, "You're right, it's because it's what they needed. What have I given you that you needed?" And more likely than not, they can tell me, and if they can't, I see that as an opportunity for me. That lets me know that I need to dig a little deeper into the needs of that child so I can provide that for them. Another thing you can do is please don't ignore a student's color because that is a very big piece of who they are. Don't tell them you don't see their color because essentially that means you don't see them. Embrace their color, embrace their uniqueness. Make a commitment to learn more about them as a person, not just a student. Please know that students of color notice when they are not represented in pictures on the wall, in the text that they read, in examples given. Students of color notice when they aren't called on as much as their peers, or they notice when they aren't being pushed to take AP courses or college entrance exams. They may not always say it, but they notice it. So as educators, we have to do all in our power to make them feel as important as their white peers. We were all miseducated in this country. We all experienced the changing of history and the erasure of information and cultures. We all experienced segregation that separated us from our brothers and sisters of different skin tones and ethnic backgrounds. We all have biases to overcome, but we all can overcome those things through educating ourselves and building authentic relationships in order to be better for our colleagues, our students, our community members, and families. Let's be honest, a lot of you may struggle with this because it's different and it may be a tad uncomfortable. Take the next 12 days before students arrive and do a true self-analysis on the biases that you have. You may have biases or blind spots because of absent relationships. So create a diverse group of friends. Go out of your way to make it happen. Engage with new people. Don't be afraid to ask questions or start humanizing conversations. Have a basic understanding of the cultures your students come from. and recognize situations that may magnify stereotyping and biases. Only until those biases are identified and properly addressed will you be able to make a connection with all of your students. Only until those relationships are established will you be able to deliver engaging and meaningful instruction to your students. Students don't care how much you know about the Pythagorean theorem or clauses in the English language until they know how much you care about them as a person. When you think back about your favorite teacher, it probably isn't the one that provided the most rigor and used the most complex sentences to show how smart they were. It was the teacher that made you feel good, the one that you knew cared. If you don't take anything else from today, please know and understand that this is not a black versus white thing. It's not a rich versus poor thing. It's a human thing. It's a right versus wrong thing. And right now, we are living in a time where we have to do what is right for all of our students. A lot of you are already doing this, but now I challenge and encourage you to support your colleague who needs your help in making this a district-wide effort. We are Westside, and we are better together.